Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. So I just finished the final series of special education strategies and social sessions that I had scheduled for this week. And I was super excited to dig in with everyone. And I'm going to be bringing those live to Facebook next week now that we kind of have a pulse of what's happening in our special education community. I'm ready to bring that conversation out front. So stay tuned for those. Number two is I want to say happy World Down Syndrome Day to all of my fellow Down syndrome families. My brother has Down syndrome and he's my neighbor. So I'm hoping to catch him outside as he takes a walk because we're social distancing. As he takes a walk and gets out in the community, we're going to do some Instagrams with that. So I'd love to see you over on Instagram to celebrate World Down Syndrome Day. So that's going to be super fun. What I want to bring to you today, as you are kind of stepping into the realization of what is happening in our school system, of the big notices that are being dropped of how long school really is going to be out for many people. When I was just behind the scenes in this special education strategy session, we had a special ed administrator who was giving her perspective of what's happening. And she used a word that I love. I love it a lot. I use it a lot. That's the word grace. And she's asking that, could I please share with parents to give the special education department some grace? But for me, that's not just for parents. Special ed teachers are struggling. Administrators in general are struggling, especially in the special education realm. And, this is already a tough field with a lot of turnover. Special education teachers often don't feel supported during good times. So during these other crisis situations that we're dealing with, and every district is dealing with it different, and nobody had a real plan for this, they're looking at the situation through a whole different lens when they're a part of the special education team. And one of the best things that you can tell your special education team, no matter what your role is, you might be telling this to a colleague, you might be a parent that's telling somebody who's trying to serve your child, you might need to tell the administrator this, is that you're not going to throw them under the bus if they don't get it right. The fear in the special education world right now from our teams to get it right, to make sure that they don't get in trouble, is off the charts. It's super scary times for a team that is already held by standards, which I know some of you guys can go to that ugly kind of space and out of anger say, yeah, but they don't always do the standards and they don't do them in good times. And I'm always fighting for my kids' services anyway. And I'm always okay. So let's set that aside. Really, we have to set that aside. And we have to really look at that these are human beings that are coping with the same crisis, but yet they don't really have time to cope because they've been told that they need to do their job in a totally different way, quickly. And they need to basically make sure that parents don't throw them under the bus, so they better get it right. That's happening in a lot of places. So as a parent who has a child with an IEP, you can absolutely reassure your team that you're not going to throw them under the bus and that you know that this is a learning curve for them. And that, yes, you want your child to have as much support and services as possible, but we don't really know what's possible right now. We're figuring it out. We're figuring out what's possible and what's going to happen. Here's one thing that I want to reassure you of. I want to just remind you that the special education law was enacted in 1975. It is just going on being 45 years old. We are not going back to the 1970s. Your kids are not going to be denied services at that level that puts us back decades. They're not going to be put back into the classrooms that are in the basement. They're not going to be recommending institutions. We don't have to operate out of this fear that things are going to go so far backwards that we're never going to get back to baseline. We're not at baseline for services right now because we're in a situation that none of us really knew was going to happen, and we don't know how to deal with that. But we will get back to baseline. Now, I will tell you that I actually think that we're going to end up further ahead of baseline once all of this dust settles. I think of the silver linings of things like special education students that have been denied technology in the past because they didn't need it. Oh, they need it. I think of the technology skills that haven't been taught to our kids with IEPs at the same level, again, because they didn't need it, they need it. I think of the social skills that we're using during social distancing, of knowing personal space, of saying hello, of giving some eye contact when appropriate, if you can, right? That's all going to be a priority over these next few weeks. It's also going to help us level up our special education plans once we get back into the classroom, we get back to normal, and we will get back to normal. In fact, like I said, I think we're going to get better. We're going to get better than baseline when we get back into the system and we get settled. I just was on this social skills, it was a special education strategy session and kind of a social session too. I was talking to a mom who is in the field professionally, and she realized throughout all of this, she thought her daughter could wash her hands appropriately, like how we're all being instructed to wash our hands. Her daughter can't. And then she realized that a lot of times when her daughter doesn't, she just uses hand sanitizer. Like, here, this is good enough. But that's not good enough right now. So I encouraged her. I said, if that's all that your child learns over the next, 3 weeks that they're going to be home, maybe longer, I don't know, is how to wash their hands appropriately. That is a lifelong skill that was not being worked on, that needed to be worked on, and now will have a lifelong benefit for that. And that's okay. So knowing what to prioritize, knowing that you're going to give the team grace, knowing that we're not going back to the 1970s, we're going to get back to baseline, and we're going to be better than baseline sooner than everyone realizes. When it comes to all of our special education services, we're going to get there. All right. A lot of it has to do with, we're not going to rely on the law to make what needs to happen. We're going to do this as human beings. In fact, we've spent a lot of time really relying on the law to make people give our children a better education. We're not going to need to do that, because as human beings, there is more human collaboration that is happening right now to make sure that children are okay, including special needs children, than there has ever been, that I've ever seen in the past. And you guys know I'm a special needs sibling. So I've lived this in the special needs world my entire lifetime. And I see more care and compassion. I see more worry. I see more concern. I see more services. I really do see more creative solutions to the best of their ability than I have ever seen as a special needs sibling or a special education teacher. So keep your hope up. Keep creative solutions going. Give grace, and we're all going to be okay. I cannot wait to connect with you guys next week. I've got some great things coming your way. And remember, you can always find me. I'll put some links here in below so you guys can find me. You can email me questions. We can connect, because myself and our Master IEP Coach community, we're here to serve you at the highest level possible. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll talk to you soon.